if you are found to be COVID positive.
Namaskar and welcome. Well, the 15th India-EU summit will be held tomorrow, that is 15th of July, via video conference. Now, this summit, remember, is happening at a time when the world is battling COVID-19 pandemic. Well, in this 6:30 special broadcast on Doordarshan News, we are going to talk about the broader agenda of the 15th India-EU summit and the larger messaging. Joining us on the show, a special guest, former Indian ambassador to EU, and also my colleague Abhishek Jha. I'm Sakal Bhatt. And to begin with, let's quickly take a look at why is this India-EU summit important. Tomorrow, as the India-EU virtual summit takes place, it's going to focus on strengthening multilateralism during their upcoming summit beginning tomorrow. This is coming at a time when there's a lot of uncertainty created by COVID-19 pandemic. Well, the 15th India-EU summit, which was delayed due to coronavirus outbreak, will be held via video conference tomorrow, that is on 15th of July. The 15th India-EU summit, as I mentioned earlier, has been delayed because of the coronavirus outbreak globally, and this time it's going to be taking place July 15 tomorrow via video conferencing. The summit will be co-chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, European Council President Charles Michel, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Remember, it's important to understand that some preparatory work has already been done in this regard, and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar joined his European and other counterparts for a virtual meeting of the Informal Alliance for Multilateralism earlier on 26th of June. The summit is happening also at a time when the world is fighting or battling COVID-19 pandemic. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi and European Commission President have already exchanged letters expressing their commitment as well as cooperation in the fight against the pandemic. The summit will be also an opportunity to discuss and identify synergies, especially in sectors like healthcare, the production of pharmaceuticals, the vaccines, the research as well as development, the diagnostics as well as treatment. This is an important component of the summit. The leaders are also expected to call for the future COVID-19 vaccine to become a global common good. Well, in other updates related to the summit tomorrow, German Chancellor Angela Merkel has said that she could not guarantee that EU member states will reach an agreement on the proposals by the European Council President Charles Michel at a summit on July 17 to 18. Now, during a news conference with Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte at a palace just outside Berlin, she said that positions are still too far apart to make any predictions about how the negotiations on this will proceed. European Council President Charles Michel will chair the first face-to-face talks of the 27 European Union heads since lockdowns took hold in March globally, and also over how to respond to the coronavirus divided the EU bloc as well. And now let's also take a look at why is this summit important from Indian perspective. Let's take a look at this. Now, talking about the broader agenda, global issues on the agenda of the 15th EU Virtual Summit as follows on your screen. It is expected to focus on bilateral strategic ties. Global responses to coronavirus pandemic will also be largely discussed. It's going to review India-EU cooperation covering political and security relations, trade and investment and economic cooperation. Summit will largely discuss developments around COVID-19 pandemic, the response to it, the contemporary global developments, the matters of interest on both sides as India's EU. India-EU explore, they're also going to explore talks on free trade agreement or FTA. Summit will strengthen EU-India strategic partnership. Bilateral, regional and global issues will be widely discussed. They will come up in the discussion. Cooperation in security, climate space, environment space, trade and investment, digital economy, connectivity will come up. Also, importantly, response capacities, response building in view of the coronavirus pandemic, especially affecting the EU countries, especially the worst hit being Spain, Italy and France. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, of course, will be representing India at the EU platform, and EU also will be represented by their President, European Council, Charles Michel, and also President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen. Summit, remember, was to have been originally held in the Belgian capital Brussels in March 2020, but it got delayed because of the corona pandemic outbreak. And importantly, the 14th India-EU summit, that's the last summit, was held in October 2017, which India played host. It was held in New Delhi. This time, the summit will review not only India-EU cooperation covering a larger gamut of political situation, security relationship, trade, investment, economic cooperation between India and EU summit, but also discuss developments, important developments around COVID-19 pandemic and the other contemporary global matters of both interests, particularly to EU states as well as India. They're going to explore talks on the free trade agreement as well. Well, joining us on the show, in fact, we will be joined by Amrit Pal, and we also will be joined by Manjeev Singh Puri. Ambassador Manjeev Singh Puri is going to join us, former Indian ambassador to EU. He's going to join us on the special broadcast. He's there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Puri. It's an honor to have you on this special broadcast, sir, dedicated to the optics and the importance of India-EU summit, which is going to kickstart tomorrow, the virtual conference. And also my colleague, let me quickly welcome Abhishek Jha, who has been very deeply following the developments, both sides, but I'm going to open the discussion with Ambassador Puri. Over to you. It's very clear, sir, as we're going to play out those graphics for the viewers to understand why this is important, especially Ambassador Puri. This is coming at a time when one thing is very clear, that the global response to COVID-19 pandemic is going to actually dominate the larger discourse. But from India's perspective, the lot of groundwork was, in fact, has already been done by our External Affairs Minister in that virtual meeting on June 26th. The larger optics from Indian point of view, the deliverables that our Prime Minister is going to, put on table tomorrow.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. I think at the very outset, I must stress that the European Union is one of our largest and most important bilateral relationships anywhere in the world. Let me make a few very big points to you. It is our largest trading partner and the second largest destination of Indian exports. In terms of investments in India, by far the Europeans lead. Now, let us understand what exactly this means in terms of numbers. Bilateral trade in goods is about 80 billion euros annually, with about 30 billion euros in addition in terms of trades and services. So the relationship is old, the relationship is time-tested, it's a very important relationship. Now, you came to the question of what would dominate the current summit, which is the 15th summit between India and the European Union. It goes without saying that the COVID pandemic would certainly be the dominant thing. Let us understand that European countries have been disproportionately, in fact, very badly hit as a result of the pandemic, with the number of deaths, the number of cases really being leaders in the world. We, on the other hand, acted with alacrity, enforced a very stringent lockdown, and by and large, we have controlled our morbidity rate, our mortality rate, and keeping it very low. This is a great tribute to us. But wherein lies the interest of India and the European Union? I think the interests lie in global cooperation apart from bilateral cooperation. A key area certainly is what do we do with either therapeutics or in terms of vaccine development. Now, I'm glad to see that there are European companies and there are corporations and entities in India which are in the forefront of looking at what we can do. Cooperation between the two would be a great help, not only for India and the European Union, but for the world and humankind as such. Let me look at the next major area.
All right, let me quickly get in my colleague also here, Ambassador Puri, requesting you to stay with us. Abhishek, given the trade volume, EU is the second largest destination for Indian exports after USA. Now, this is coming at a juncture when the whole world is battling COVID-19, especially the way our Prime Minister has been hailed by the rest of the world for the way that India has responded to the situation, especially if you talk about the EU bloc and responses and a relationship with EU bloc vis-a-vis trade. How critical is this going to be tomorrow?
Okay, so Sakal, going by the trade record, India and you have been one of the very close partners, and we know that India is India's second largest exporter to that destination, and after USA only. And this whole dynamics pans out to up to the cost of $100 billion in terms of goods and almost $50 billion in terms of services. So this is a huge thing that is actually between India and USA. And but there is still talk, there is still a thought that this is way below the potential that India and EU can actually have. There's a lot of significant investment by EU companies in India. They also ensure employment of up to 6 million people directly and indirectly in India. There is a lot of Indian companies who are working for European Union. But then this can be, expedited if India and EU can come back to the terms and they can agree on a future free trade agreement deal, which was pushed earlier, almost 10 years back, but it was then shelved because both the parties did not have their ambitions matching. But then now there is again talk of those coming back to table, talking about those FTA agreements, which may ensure a better and competitive environment for both EU and India companies and service providers. So the business and trade is one of the major parts of this
business
India
and trade. Ambassador Puri, do you think now finally we can actually see a situation wherein we lift that pause button as far as FTA is now concerned?
Let me tell you, I have always remained optimistic, but I want to tell you this is really a bread and butter issue. It's very critical to both sides. We have our own apprehensions, we have our own issues, especially in the services area, in the areas of data access and so on. These are, and in the area of small parts for the automobile industry. Now, the European Union too has its own issues. Do understand that as they go through separation with the United Kingdom, with Great Britain, following Brexit, they will also have their own set of interests on building relationships in trade where they've had an old relationship. But at the end of the day, we both need to match our interests, though I firmly believe that both of us should play to each other's strengths, the European Union to India's market, and India to the fact that the European Union is truly a big leader in the world in technology. Let me make one more point here. When Prime Minister Modi addressed the India Global Summit the other day, he said something about Atam Nirbhar Bharat in saying that we are not only looking at self-reliance in terms of do everything yourself, but in terms of linking ourselves to the world and in terms of what we can do in collaboration with the world. This cannot be anything but music to the ears of European corporates who really know India well and who have been here in very large measure over a very long period of time. So this is a time to build the relationship. Let me make one final point. We all are aware of the geopolitical tensions in the world, courtesy what the rising and increasingly aggressive China is. We have our own issues on the border, but these are also issues that we're seeing in terms of the world tensions, global tensions.
I was coming to that, Ambassador Puri. The geopolitical tensions around the world, the very mention of China, the tension brewing between China and US, the border situation earlier in the last 1 month or so, we saw India-China, my reference to that. Not really directly, but the way China has been at the receiving end of a lot of global criticism for the way they've dealt with the corona pandemic situation. You think somewhere tomorrow during this virtual conference, directly or indirectly, there will be reference to China, the geopolitics developments and the EU bloc.
Well, look, the European Union and the major countries of the European Union have all made articulations supporting India's position insofar as the skirmishes and the conflict with China is concerned. They are also in their own way at the receiving end. Let me point out to you that only recently the European Parliament uh, passed a resolution against China on the new security law for Hong Kong. The European Union has also refused to agree to give China the market economy status. So let's understand all of these things. We and the Chinese are in a certain degree of competition, and there is no reason why we should not pitch to the European companies, and for them, we should not be a place where they can, to certain
Okay,
extent,
Abhishek.
to the extent which is possible, we can move these goods and services. After all, there is a competition in this.
And sir, we need also to talk about the vaccine development and the healthcare and the continuity, well, maintaining the continuity, the consistency. Abhishek, very quickly, if you could also, touch upon that very critical aspect of health space, which generally in the previous editions we may not have discussed, the EU bloc might not have comprehensively discussed, but tomorrow this is going to actually dominate the proceedings, largely dominate the proceedings, the vaccine, the R&D, the healthcare, manufacturing, supply, etc., especially when the world again is looking at India as a manufacturing hub or the pharmaceutical capital of the world.
So, Sakal, India is in a position where it's one of the biggest supplier of vaccine to the world. Almost more than 60% of vaccine is manufactured in India. So, in that way, even if there is a success in developing a vaccine for this COVID-19 thing, India is going to have a very, very, very important role. Also, Prime Minister Modi and the European Commission President they have also exchanged letters where they have expressed their commitment for future cooperation in the field of COVID-19 and also in the field of other healthcare sector, diagnostic, research and development. And beyond this, there will be a need, an urgency of maintaining the supply chain of all the medical equipment and healthcare sector, other logistical healthcare sector. So that is also one of the major issues that these the leaders will be discussing when they will be having this summit.
Okay, Ambassador Puri, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, may I add a little bit? Abhishek has very rightly sketched the broad issues, but let me make a few, one or two points in this context which are particularly pointed. The idea of a vaccine runs into the entire issue of intellectual property rights. And what does this mean? If you recall, about a month or so back, somebody said that a major French pharmaceutical company, Sanofi, was about to launch something, and they talked in terms of making it available to the United States at preferential prices and at high prices in the rest of the world. And the French stepped in and said, no, this should be a global public good. This is the kind of things that India and the European Union have much to do and interact with each other. We need to understand that if we collaborate in the world, we collaborate for ourselves and we collaborate for humankind. And this is where we come together. And Abhishek has so rightly mentioned the point that even if the fundamental discoveries and so on take place there, at the end of the day, the large manufacturing capabilities and supplying to the large parts of the world rest with us. And this is a time-tested thing. So a very, very fruitful area of cooperation, one which is absolutely relevant and germane today, other than strengthening multilateralism, in which both India and the European Union are firm and abiding believers.
Well, along with, yes, sir. Let's quickly get Abhishek in here because he's been tracking it also very, very closely, Abhishek. Along with the other deliverables that we are looking at, we're also looking at this comprehensive roadmap 2025. Looks, the look of it, it actually looks very ambitious. But do you think the trade and the COVID-19 response is going to largely dominate it? Roadmap 2025.
So, Sakal, this is going to be, so now we can see that India and Europe both are trying to invest in each other with a long-term strategy. This paper, which is expected that the leaders will be adopting this paper, is something that the both parties will be showing confidence in each other's policy, be it in trade, commerce, or geopolitical dynamics. Both will be willing to give space to each other's political compulsions and geopolitical priorities also at the same time. Because we know if you talk about India and China, there is a huge investment of China that has happened in Europe. And there is a substantial partnership of Europe and China also. So at the time when India and China are going through a lot of tension at borders and there is a lot of trade dynamics which is going to shift, not in favor of China from Indian side, there can be certain section in European Union, because this is a cluster of countries which can not go along with India. But then these geopolitical priorities, given as keeping aside the trade and dynamics issues of these two, the parties should continue. So this is the kind of confidence and a surety that these two parties will be giving each other while adopting that document of 25.
Ambassador Puri, the neighborhood situation as far as India is concerned, the LAC border situation in the last 1 month or so with China, the way Pakistan continues to sponsor terrorism in Kashmir, the domestic policy, the neighborhood, as far as India's point of view is concerned, India is likely to pick up those pressing issues as well, is it?
This is a summit. The leaders sit across the table, although this time they're doing it using video conferencing, and they certainly do a tour the horizon of the world. And so to expect that the Indian Prime Minister will not brief them on the situations which are germane to us, especially in our borders, that's not going to happen. It's certainly going to happen. He will brief them and put them at his level with the situation which exists vis-a-vis China and with Pakistan and its continuing sponsorship of terrorism, etc. Generally speaking, the European Union remains supportive of our concerns on terrorism. They also have articulated, as I mentioned, many of the countries have articulated support for our position on China. We need to ensure that we both sides, remember, these are countries which are the world's largest and most important democracies if we just leave the United States out. So these are countries which are natural partners. We've been having these summits now since the year 2000. Okay. We became strategic partners in 2004. And so therefore, things which are absolutely germane and critical to you do get discussed, and you do expect the other side to have an understanding and a certain degree of willingness to go along with understanding the compulsions and the interests, but play to strengths. I always mention that in the case of European Union and India, it's very important that we play to each other's strengths and leverage our combined strengths to something more than what the two simply add up to, rather than finding something or the other to nitpick about. That doesn't really help. And I'm very happy that this summit is taking place despite COVID, despite the fact that physical travel could not take place, because the signal that it gives is particularly positive and one that will be very good for us as well as the European Union.
Yes, sir. And in fact, Abhishek, what more are your sources telling you vis-a-vis the whole talk of Pakistan and China tomorrow? Is this going to come up in talks?
Okay, Sakal, the sources said that this is one of the issue of the pressing issues of neighborhood will be discussed both from India's point of view also and from European Union point of view also. While India may like to push forward this counter-terrorism operations that India has to have, or this cross-border terrorism which emanates from Pakistan, this LAC tension from Chinese side. European Union may have other priorities also. They may also discuss some aspects of Russia or USA. But the thing is, these aspects are they are almost certain to come up when India and EU will be discussing geopolitical interests in their neighborhood.
Okay, Ambassador Puri, very quickly to sum it up, the timings of it, the timings of the EU summit, considering the last summit was held in India national capital, we played the proud host. The forward movement of the resolution or the deliverables that we had in the last summit, and now this time, it's a different world. It's a post-COVID world. So we understand that the pandemic response will be dominating the proceedings. That's how you started the discussion, sir. Just to wrap it up now, in that view, tomorrow, do you think there's also once again going to be this Atmanirbhar Bharat pitch, and again India leading from the front when it comes to fighting COVID-19? Yes, we are now talking about the countries vis-a-vis EU bloc and our relationship with the EU bloc so far.
I have absolutely no doubt that the countries of the EU may share with us their experiences with COVID. After all, they have been hugely impacted as a result. But they would certainly like to hear as to what we did, because we did many things which were absolutely right. And we've controlled morbidity in India. This has been one of the success stories in the world. Now, we need to work on this because we are in the middle of the pandemic and there is no sign as yet that this pandemic is on the wane or that the curve has been flattened globally, etc. Therefore, this has to be the priority because urgent always takes, in fact, precedence even over the important. We all know that. So this has to be the priority. And if India and EU can work together on drugs, on vaccines, on making them largely available as global public goods, we would have done ourselves and the world a great deal of favor. Now, let us look at what else we can do in terms of bilateral relationships. Certainly, we should give a push to our trade relationship because remember, COVID is going to have one of the greatest impacts on the global economy, on the European economy, and on the Indian economy. We all need to do what we can to ensure that we pull our economies up, if possible, go through a V-shaped recovery so that we try and work as soon as possible to get things going. We have announced a massive program in India of 22 lakh crores.
Okay.
We've announced a program of Atmanirbhar Bharat. For that, I do believe that European technologies, European ideas and European novelties in terms of innovation are very useful to us, and if we can leverage these, it would be to our advantage
So
as well
Ambassador
as
Puri, so this whole Atmanirbhar Bharat innovation and digitization pitch somewhere tomorrow when this virtual conference starts, India-EU summit, somewhere there, this is also going to be part of the entire discourse. Very briefly, because our Prime Minister has made it very clear on multiple platforms that Atmanirbharta is not about just being closed, it's about self-sustaining and self-generating vis-a-vis these two spaces. And once again, well, he's had one of the powerful outreaches, you mentioned about it, the his address to at least 6,000 global audience across 30 nations in Global India Week, and after that, of course, this being the next big one. So
no, I have absolutely no doubt, because self-reliance is extremely important for a country of India's size and our population. But for that, if you need to leverage with friends and those technologies and technology purveyors which are known to us, it will be good for us for innovation development, for technology development, and for us to be partners of theirs because they will also benefit. Let's not underestimate the fact that India is today one of the 5 largest economies in the world. And when you look at it, in the next 10 to 15 years, we are poised to become among the 3 top economies in the world. The European Union has a straight, direct vested interest. And because as a group, they are one of the world's largest economies, we have a vested interest in them. We should leverage these things.
Yes, you've summed it up so aptly, Ambassador Puri. Many thanks. Really an honor to have you on the show. Manjeev Singh Puri, former Indian ambassador to EU. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And I also quickly thank my colleague Abhishek Jha for getting us that that comprehensive report, the EU trade and importance of tomorrow's summit. With that, it's time to wrap it up. But on the other side, my colleague Ashok Srivastav joins you for more news and updates. Stay with us. Namaskar.